It was a typical night shift, and I was patrolling the quiet streets, making sure everything was in order. But little did I know that this night would be anything but ordinary. As I rounded a dark corner, I noticed something strange up ahead. A car was parked sideways, blocking the road, and someone in a police uniform was standing beside it. My instincts kicked in, and I immediately felt something wasn't right. I approached cautiously, my hand resting on my holster, just in case. As I got closer, the supposed officer turned to face me, but there was something off about him. His uniform looked a bit disheveled, and his badge didn't seem to gleam like it should. "Hey, officer," he called out, his voice strangely calm. "I need your help with something up ahead. Follow me." My heart raced, and a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I took a step back, keeping a safe distance from the man, and asked for his badge number, trying to buy some time while I assessed the situation. But before he could answer, I heard a rustling sound coming from the woods nearby. My senses went on high alert as a group of masked individuals emerged, surrounding us. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then I saw it. One of them was holding a fire axe in their hand, the blade glinting in the dim streetlights. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to survive this night. Without hesitation, I drew my weapon and shouted for them to back off, but they seemed unfazed, their masks hiding any emotion. The fake officer was now smirking, and my heart sank as I realized they were out for more than just a little mischief. My radio crackled to life, and I knew backup was on its way. I glanced back at the car blocking the road, and that's when I saw it, the stolen vehicle. These individuals were not ordinary troublemakers. They were criminals with dangerous intentions. I knew I had to get out of there and buy time for my fellow officers to arrive. I made a split-second decision and sprinted back to my own patrol car, hoping to put some distance between us. The sound of their heavy boots chasing after me only fueled my determination. Finally, I reached my car and slammed the door shut, frantically calling for backup over the radio. I locked the doors, but the night had one last fright in store for me. The masked individuals disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind the stolen car. As my fellow officers arrived on the scene, we searched the area for any sign of the suspects, but they had vanished without a trace. We discovered the stolen car was involved in a series of robberies across town, and it seemed they were planning something much more sinister. It all started on a stormy night that seemed destined to be nothing out of the ordinary. I was on duty, patrolling the city streets with my partner, Officer Ramirez, when we received a distress call. Dispatch informed us of a possible hostage situation at a house on the outskirts of town. The details were scarce, but we knew we had to act fast. With our sirens blaring and the rain pouring down, we raced towards the address. The dark clouds seemed to mirror the ominous feeling that enveloped us as we approached the house. Little did we know that this night would forever change our lives. As we reached the location, the sound of raindrops against the windows mixed with the tension in the air. With weapons drawn, we cautiously made our way to the front door. The darkness of the night seemed to swallow us whole, but we were resolute in our mission. With a silent nod to each other, Ramirez and I burst through the door, ready for whatever awaited us inside. The scene that greeted us was something out of a nightmare. Bloodstains adorned the walls and floors, and lifeless bodies lay scattered around like discarded dolls. We navigated through the eerie silence, scanning the area for any signs of life. The weight of the situation bore down on us as we moved from room to room, our flashlights illuminating the macabre scene. In the midst of the chaos, I heard a faint, desperate whimper. It was almost drowned out by the storm raging outside, but it was there, calling out for help. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed the sound, determined to find the source. The whimper led me to a small, dimly lit closet tucked away in the corner of a room. With a shaky hand, I opened the door, praying to find a survivor. And there, huddled in a corner, was a young girl, her eyes wide with fear. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched a screwdriver in her trembling hands. It was clear she had been through unimaginable horrors, and I approached her with caution and compassion. "Hey, it's okay," I said gently, trying to convey that we were there to help. But the trauma she had experienced had left her traumatized and distrustful of anyone in uniform. Suddenly, In a surge of fear and desperation, she lunged at me with the screwdriver. My instincts kicked in, and I managed to dodge her attack, but not without consequences. The sharp tip of the screwdriver grazed my arm, leaving behind a deep gash. I knew then that she wasn't a threat, but a victim. My heart ached for her as I subdued her, making sure not to harm her further. I tried to reassure her that we would protect her, but the horrors she had endured had shattered her trust in others. Backup arrived, securing the area and ensuring the safety of any possible survivors. The young girl was taken into custody, and it was later revealed that she had survived the massacre that had taken place in the house. Through the haze of adrenaline and emotion, we learned more about the events that had transpired. The suspect who had committed the heinous act had fled before our arrival. The girl had hidden in the closet, praying for someone to rescue her. The rest of that night was a blur of interviews, paperwork, and trying to process the horrors we had witnessed. The images of the crime scene and the girl's desperate attack haunted my dreams for weeks to come. It was a chilly winter afternoon, and my fellow officers and I received a domestic disturbance call at a small apartment complex on the outskirts of town. We arrived at the scene, and even before stepping out of the patrol car, a sense of unease settled over me like a dark cloud. As I approached the building, I could hear muffled shouting from inside. My heart pounded in my chest, and I mentally prepared myself for what lay ahead. We knocked on the door, announcing our presence as the law required, but the commotion inside only grew louder. A man finally opened the door, his face bruised and swollen. He was clearly intoxicated and had an air of aggression about him. I could see the pain and turmoil in his eyes, but my training told me to focus on the situation at hand. We asked him to step outside and talk, hoping to de-escalate the situation. But as he stumbled out, his anger escalated, and he started yelling at us. Despite our attempts to reason with him, he became increasingly aggressive, refusing to calm down or cooperate. Fearing for our safety and the safety of others in the building, we made the decision to arrest him for disorderly conduct. As we placed him in cuffs and prepared to escort him to the patrol car, he continued to resist, lashing out and making threats. It was a tense and dangerous situation, and my heart raced as we finally managed to subdue him and secure him in the back of the cruiser. With the man in custody, we could finally turn our attention to the apartment. My fellow officers and I cautiously entered, bracing ourselves for what we might find. The scene that greeted us was nothing short of horrifying. The living room was in disarray, furniture overturned, and belongings scattered everywhere. But the true horror lay in the bedroom, where we found a young woman lying motionless on the floor. Her once beautiful face was now marred by bruises, cuts, and a look of terror frozen on her features. My heart sank as I realized the gravity of the situation. It was clear that she had suffered immensely, and the sight of her lifeless body sent a chill down my spine. We called for paramedics immediately, but it was too late. The young woman had succumbed to her injuries, and the apartment became a crime scene. As the investigation unfolded, we learned the harrowing truth about the woman's relationship with the man we had arrested. They had been dating for a few years, and what started as a seemingly loving relationship had turned into a nightmare of abuse and violence. Her friends and neighbors recounted stories of hearing her cries for help late at night, but she had always downplayed the situation, refusing to press charges or seek help. The fear of retaliation and the psychological manipulation by her abuser had kept her trapped in a cycle of violence that ultimately claimed her life. In the days that followed, we worked tirelessly to gather evidence and build a case against the man responsible for her death. But as we delved deeper, we discovered that he had a long history of violent behavior and had managed to evade the law multiple times. I couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt and frustration. As a police officer, my duty is to protect and serve, but I couldn't save her from the horrors of her abusive relationship. I couldn't reach her in time to offer the support and safety she desperately needed. Her death weighed heavily on my mind and haunted my dreams for weeks. The memory of her lifeless body lying in that apartment was etched into my mind, a constant reminder of the darkness that can hide behind closed doors.